What is up, Fight Frogs? We had a crazy night in Iowa, my first ever UFC event in person, and we got a little bit of everything. And it is nearly 1 a.m. now, and the fanny pack is still on. Now it's off. Okay, Iowa is a interesting place, and you know what? Maybe I should get merched up. Yep. Can't forget about this bad boy. Lots of really amazing performances. I think a couple of contenders for performance of the night and fight of the night. I think that performance of the night has got to go to Reiner Day Ritter, okay? To Freddie from Scooby-Doo, who he's crazy, okay? He showed it. Reiner Day Ritter showed that he is crazy and that he is all MMA, and as he put it, he's been spending a lot of time in the U.S., and he had to remind himself if he's a Dutchman and go for those knees. And oh boy, did he. Yes, he did. And he made Bo Nichols crumble to the ground, and you could see his whole diaphragm shutting into itself. But yes, that was not the only amazing moment. So we'll go over it. We'll wrap it up. We'll do a dynamic review of the first time that the UFC had ever ventured its way into Des Moines. And the last time that the UFC was in Iowa was 25 years ago. First fight of the night was Juliana Miller versus Ivana Petrovic, a women's flyweight bout. It was a perfect emotional start. I mean, Juju came out to Unbreakable, and of course, I started crying right then and there. Yes, and we roll into the fight, and it's mostly Juju, and the crowd is, they're testy right away. The crowd is very testy. People are booing because we end up on the fence. We're clinching it out, and there's a lot of clinch moments in this entire fight, and it kind of just is a little more clinch with Juju in control, and then Juju had some moments on the ground, getting Ivana trapped in that body triangle, and raining a few punches down on her. And round 2 and round 3 looked pretty similar in that way, with just a trap of that body triangle and raining down some punches. And so, Juju was able to get that unanimous decision win to start out our night. Shout out Grandma. That one was for Grandma. Then we brought it up to heavyweights, Thomas the Train Peterson versus Dantel Mays. There were a lot of Train fans in there, dressed up in their little Thomas the Tank Engine outfits, and it went their way, so goody on them. They dressed right in the right costume. Yes, so Thomas, he just had a lot more to offer. He was more MMA because he had the wrestling, and Dantel didn't know what to do with that. So both men have heavy hands, and if it stayed standing, it would probably just be a battle of the timing, which slug, makes its way first. But Thomas Peterson he's a thinky, he's a smart cookie, and he knew what to do, which was use his wrestling, and that he did, and he controlled Mays. He controlled him all the way through the fight. It was a 30-26 type situation, but another unanimous decision for Peterson. Choo-choo the train. Yes, choo-choo all the way home. Then we had our first of a handful of bantamweight fights, some that delivered, some that maybe did not. We had Gaston Bolaños versus Quang Bang Lee, and Lee really needed this one. So right away in round 1, you could see that Quang Bang was not trying to stand and bang, but to make this a ground fight, which makes sense because Gaston is not exactly known for his grappling game, and by round 2, holy smokes, he found himself trapped up in the choke, and he did not tap. He went lights out, and, Quang Bang had to look up at the ref and say, "Excuse me, this man might be asleep. Pardon me, this man might be asleep." And so he was. And the result was then that Quang Lee gets the rear naked choke in round 2, and he really needed that coming off of a 2-fight losing streak. Ruh-roh. Okay, glad to put it to a halt, and in such a fabulous fashion. Next, we had an amazing fight with Jillian Robertson going against Marina Rodriguez, women's flyweight. Jillian coming in on a really hot 3-fight win streak, and she controlled on the ground immediately, getting some damage in round 1 with that ground and pound and a unique elbowing to the legs. That was a fun moment. I mean, why not work some damage in those legs while you're in that ground and pound if the leg is there? Then in round 2, we find ourselves in a very similar position, and Marina is getting pounded again. And surprisingly, I mean, at least surprisingly to me, Jillian gets a TKO finish in that position with that ground and pound in round 2. Surprising because Marina is quite durable, and Jillian, I think I was expecting to see her get that submission, but she's got the power too, and Marina has only lost one other time in the TKO fashion from the heavy hands of Amanda Lemos, so that is a massive win for Jillian Robertson. Love her. She is such a quirky, fun gal, and that was really amazing because that was Marina Rodriguez's last fight. What a privilege to see her last walk to the octagon. What a tough cookie. What a baddie. Yes, what a phenom. So hats off to her as well. Pretty historical bout in that sense. In our next middleweight fight, Ryan Loder was coming in with about half the experience of Azamat Bekov, and he got ran through. He got ran through very quick. It was a flurry of punches and a system shutdown. And Loder was system shut down. TKO round 1 quite early, close to the 3-minute mark. So that was cuckoo. That one was pretty crazy. Yes. And that had us transition to our featured prelim of the night. Very exciting. Jana Santos versus Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate is such a legend, definitely one of my heroes, and it was such a cool moment to see her in real life. And Miesha is definitely one of the reasons that I pulled the trigger on the ticket, because I was like, oh, girl's gonna be there. Round 1 felt pretty even and started with a fire. It was clear that there was no fear going on in that octagon, just two ladies trying to find their game plan. A lot of calf kicks that were eating up at Miesha, and Jana was definitely slowly finding her range. Yeah, slowly finding her range in there. And by round 2, another close round, but looking just more on Jana's side as far as getting some more strikes in. Round 3, Miesha does have a little bit of a moment, getting some ground and pound in, but just not enough to make up for the other 2 rounds, and that round wasn't entirely dominant on Miesha completely. We find ourselves at a unanimous decision in favor of Santos, and the boos ensue. Oh, that crowd was testy. Then we found ourselves in a peculiar but fun, fascinating, peculiar fight. Jeremy Stephens and Mason Jones simultaneously making their return to the octagon. Jeremy Stephens, a Des Moines native, so not just an Iowa native, but a Des Moines native as well. So the building lit up for Jeremy. He's one of just 2 Iowans currently active in the UFC. That's not how it used to be, as some of us know. And shout out to Jens Pulver, who was in the audience. What a celeb. Anyway, so Stephens versus Jones, a lightweight bout. And round 1, Mason is already just very quickly looking like the younger fighter in there. But each of them are grabbing, a few at each other. And speaking of grabbing, Mason Jones grabs a couple of takedowns as well. So that adds up for him a little bit on the scorecards, and it's a very heavy striking exchange going back and forth. Both men finding some exchanges, Mason mixing in the kicks a little bit more. Round 2 was another back and forth, and Jones just made good use of his wrestling in there and was able to not quite put out the light of Stephens, but keep him at bay and do a little more in there. So we got some boos, we got some rurs, but another unanimous decision win for Mason Jones over the Des Moines native. Oh no, Stephens. Then we found ourselves a fight a little bit similar, but a lot less damage. So Mason and Jeremy, they put the damage on each other. There was definitely some bruises, a bit of blood, not a lot of blood spray, but blood up top and stuff like that. This next fight, Series CD versus Cameron Smotherman, men's bantamweight. That was similar in the sense that no one was able to really get it done in there, but there was really no damage inflicted much at all in this fight, and it was kind of a bit of a slow drag through, not a super highlighting performance on either CD or Smotherman, but CD just made more happen, similar to Mason Jones. Mason was mixing in the leg kicks, but then also with the takedowns. And I think those takedowns, they really added up when there was not too much other things happening, not a lot of big moments. So those takedowns, same thing for CD, was taken down Smotherman, and he was able to get that unanimous decision as well. Then we had another men's bantamweight with Daniel Marcos versus Montel Jackson for the number 15 spot. So that one had a lot of eyes on it. I had my eyes on that one, and people were very critical. This fight had a lot of boos because we had a bit of neutralizing, or just I feel like everyone was looking for a little bit more excitement. After a couple of unanimous decisions in a row, people were, they wanted their flash KO, right? Where's my flash KO? People, they got a little antsy in there. It's okay, but Montel Jackson did a lot more than Marco, so he was able to win every round just by landing a little bit more strikes, for sure. That definitely controlling the space. They both got a couple of takedowns here and there, but really there was a decent urgency on both ends, but Montel just did more, so he was able to get the unanimous decision again through just a slight edging out of each round. In round 3, there also was a brief threat of a submission, which does mean something. So Montel got to have that moment for himself as well. Nothing came of it, but yes, did a little more, another unanimous decision. Then we had a veteran matchup between two amazing welterweights that definitely delivered. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, as we call him affectionately. And Ponzinibbio is one of those guys who I have known about since I've known about the sport and been a fan for that entire time, because he is just such a amazing fighter, got a really solid record for having been in the sport for so long, and he's one brave mother effer, and even when he loses, it's a great fight. So this one has fight of the night on it, if you ask me, because both men really put it out there. And D-Rod coming out to a custom song, I heard it, I could tell it was a D-Rod made song. But yes, Santiago was definitely controlling the movement and the pace in that first round and throwing in those leg kicks for good measure, but it was pretty clear that D-Rod's power was a lot greater. He found a moment at the end of that first round wobbling Santiago, and you could just tell the difference in what they were feeling between each other, because they were both landing, but when D-Rod was really connecting, it was really, yeah, you could tell Santiago was feeling it. Round 2 was spent mostly on the feet, and D-Rod was able to very quickly showcase his power again. He was putting together some combinations, and when he was hitting, it was really hitting. Santiago trying to mix in some takedowns, mostly unsuccessful, but we got a little bit of one at the end, but there wasn't a lot of time to do much with it. Round 3 begins, and quickly D-Rod again is able to find a combination, and we are lights out. And Santiago doesn't know where he is when the ref comes and, for the rescue and says, hey, he pops back up. He's in his warrior mindset. It was, yeah. So D-Rod hit him, and he was on the ground asleep. It was a flurry of punches, but it was a massive left hand that was able to connect, and woof. That result is a TKO win for D-Rod in round 3 in a potential fight of the night moment. Then we made it to our co-main event, a 6-fight main card, getting a little bit more of those lately. Bo Nichols, who is loved and hated. It's very interesting. When he was walking out, the crowd was very mixed. A lot of people were standing. Most people on the floor stood up, like, oh, a celebrity is in the building, and there was a lot of cheering, but booing going on as well. You hear the boos while he's walking out, and then, RDR comes out, and it's only boos. So there's there was no winner essentially in that fight. Everybody was, there was not a lot of fan love for either of them. Yeah, I don't know why. I think they're both all right. I thought the hype was pretty fabulous. I was definitely excited for it, and it's my performance of the night fight for RDR for sure. And in round one, he was looking bigger and stronger right away, reversing the position on Bo and making some work. Busting up Bo's ear a little bit. Little bloody Bo at the moment there. Again, no spray. The mat of the octagon stayed clean the whole night, so that's unfortunate, but it's okay. Round two, RDR off to another very quick and deadly start. I mean, I love this guy. If I had to describe RDR in general and his performance, it's no fear, all game plan. He goes in there and he is looking for his moment, and he is simply not afraid to find it, and it is just such an exciting style. He really puts on the pace, and in round two, he did exactly that. He came out with a very quirky start. We alluded to it at the beginning with those Dutch knees, and one of those knees came through, and it just went through Bo Nichols' body, essentially. It was like he got launched up, like you could just see it. He crumbled. That was it. Hardly any human could survive. It takes some real toughness to have your body come back normal after it depositions the way that it did when you slow it down. That was a rough hit and a beautifully timed knee on the Dutchman. He was looking incredible out there. So game, so brave, and putting those knees to work. We'd love to see that. We'd love to see a body-crushing, soul-stumbling TKO win such as that. Yes, and that was a round two. We had a couple of lucky round two moments. We made quick work of that co-main event, and boos, cheers, whatever. No one can win. No one was there would have been no real winner in that fight. To the crowd, you can't satisfy them. We make our way to a very odd close. This happens sometimes, a little anticlimactic but a very exciting fight while it lasted, for sure. Incredibly exciting while it lasted. Figgy with the great walkout song. Sandman with the great walkout song. Round one, right away. Cory is being so switchy with it. That's how he is. Switchy Sandhagen, we can call him that for sure. He's looks great in either stance, and love how he uses that to, get a unique positioning, and his movement is just great. The way that he's bouncing and dancing around that cage, and Figgy tried to go for a takedown essentially, and Cory was able to quickly shake him off and then find himself on top in a bit of a weird position. Had his leg a little bit trapped in there, no real threats. Sure, maybe it was pre-heel hook area, but no real threat there, and Cory was just raining down the scorpion blows, the ones that are from real high up there, and stabbing down, using a little bit of gravity to boost as well. But yeah, I got landing some nasty stuff on Figgy, and round one was just all switchy Scorpion Sandhagen. And we made our way to round two and very quickly found ourselves in the same scenario, more Scorpion ground and pound. But then we had a very, very weird moment. Found ourselves in the Scorpion ground and pound again with Cory on top. And then Figgy's leg was in a very strange position. So strange, in fact, that looks like it tore his ACL, and he had to tap, not exactly because of an intentional submission. Cory was trying to get some more blows down, got a couple more in there, but because his leg was ripping and ripped, and don't know the full extent of the injury at this moment at 1 a.m., but it was not good. It was a rough injury, and it was a very Cory Sandhagen fight, but like it looks like it was going to be Cory Sandhagen either way, and something unless something crazy happened. But it would have been nice to at least get the end of that round, a couple more rounds perhaps, but that was the end. And for our last fight with Cory Sandhagen versus Davison and Figueiredo, we had a strange end. We had a lot of all sorts of moments during that card. We had submissions, we had finishes, we had run-throughs, we had boring decisions, exciting decisions. We had everything. And the UFC had its first ever trip in Des Moines. What a ride. What a ride. What was your favorite fight of the night? Who was your performance of the night? We gotta say, RDR, what was your fight of the night? Whatever, and whatever else. If you have a favorite Iowa location or cuisine, got to go to a place that had coffee and Pokemon cards. Yes, that exists in Des Moines.